This is Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Powered by Swiftex. Where can crypto take you?
Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and today we're live on Scoreboard on the 20th of Feb at 10:20 a.m. with Grant Wechsel and Darren Lockyer. The first podcast that I've done with two people face to face. Welcome, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, as I said, we're sitting in early Feb 2026. I'm going to ask you, Grant, first question. How's your 2026 been so far?
It's been good. It's been busy because we obviously didn't have many months to turn the London Broncos around. So I spent a fair bit of time in the UK in January, but glad to be home and back into reality.
Yeah. And Darren, majority owners of the London Broncos, a new investment for you. How's your 2026 started?
Oh, similar to Grant, we're both pretty active when it comes to being, in business, entrepreneurial sort of opportunities. Obviously, my involvement in the game, rugby league here in Australia, is still fairly active. So it's been a busy, and then you throw in family life and going back to school. So it's been a busy 26, but I think, it could be a significant year for Grant and I and the London Broncos.
Yeah, and just touching on that, an investment in sport, an investment in a team. I'm curious about your thinking around London, rugby league, the thematics, what you're thinking and why.
It wasn't something we were pursuing. It came across our desk. We thought about it when the opportunity arose, and then, for a few days, and then we decided, well, we're going to have a crack. So from my perspective, obviously London's, it's a world city. It's a big city which means it's got a big market. Obviously, it's a very soccer-dominated sport town. But the other part to this is the Broncos name. So it sort of, that ties in to my background and what my DNA is with the Broncos. And then, I think, again, back to Grant and I, sort of taking some risks, but at the same time, the challenge of rebuilding a football club or a rugby league club in London is a big challenge, but that's what life's about, is going after things.
Grant, you come from a business background. You've made investments with Darren before. How do you put the lens on from a sporting investment versus a traditional maybe mining investment or a startup, etc.? What's the difference?
Yeah, actually, when you get into it, it's actually not that different. We got a back office. We need all the right staff. We need to build the right culture. We need to build the right budget, hit revenue targets. So obviously it's a bit more, of public interest than your average mining deal. But, I say that all the time. Actually, I've been on the board of different investments over the years, and from mining to technology to media and different things. And actually the fundamentals of most businesses and whether they succeed or not are the same. So we, starting with getting the right people on board, we got Jason Demetrio on board at the start, which helped us then get as our coach, for those who don't know JD's background, and then that helped us get our captain Regan Campbell-Gillard on board, and then it flowed from there. And it's probably the same with the back office. We've now built out a team there, and they're trying to take the energy that we put into it and hit some targets. So it's actually not that dissimilar to everyday business.
And do you take a view, like a 3-year view or a 5-year strategic plan? How do you think about that compared to maybe a stock or a startup, for instance?
Yeah, it is a bit of a slower burn. We took a 7-year view in terms of, budgeting and forecasting and talking to the RFL about where we want to get to. Obviously, we want to get into the Super League as soon as we can, and that changes the dynamics a fair bit when it comes to the financial side of it. But yeah, it's not kind of an overnight investment that you can get into and get out of. You have to build both on the field and off the field. We're going to have to build on the field with the goal of, winning some silverware, and off the field we need to build fan base. We need to build that kind of fundamental commercial side of being a successful club, and that's going to take some time.
And Darren, rugby league as a whole is a global sport, even a sport in the UK. How are you thinking in your head where it's at now, the cycle it is, and where it could go?
Yeah, look, I think for rugby league to be the best version of itself globally, it obviously needs more countries that are competitive, against, for a long time it just was really Australia, New Zealand, England, and then the Pacific Island nations of Tonga and Samoa are very competitive. But the Northern Hemisphere needs to remain strong, for the overall game to be its best version globally. So, I think that's where, the World Club Challenge was just won by Hull. It beat the Brisbane Broncos this morning, and that's a game that often the Super League clubs will win, but when England plays Australia, it's a different scenario. So I do think the investment in the game down in the Southern Hemisphere is in a good spot. The Northern Hemisphere, I think it's starting to trend in the right direction, but it still needs to grow its revenue base to reinvest back into the game. And, we're seeing that as London Broncos owners, that the central distribution that all clubs get from the governing body is not nowhere near what it is in the NRL. So that's the gap, and that's where I think the improvement needs to happen, is more revenue in the game and reinvest that back into rugby league. The stronger the Northern Hemisphere are, the better it is for the rugby league as a whole.
And you've got obviously broadcast rights, then you've got socials, and you've got lots of different competitors, and we're seeing the NFL coming out here, the NBA coming out here, and the cross-border style. There's talk about the 2020 opening game being the Big Bash being in India. How are you thinking about that potentially from a global point of view, owning the London Broncos, which is the epicenter of the world, by the way, one of the capital cities of the world?
Yeah, like there's 10 million people that live there, right? And I think at any one time, there's a couple 100,000 Kiwis and Australians there. So we've only really got to tap into that market to sort of grow our revenue base. But, Peter V'landys has been pretty vocal about wanting to, that's why he's taking Origin to New Zealand. He's talking about this global first round where they play in different big cities across them. So there is that aspiration there. And I think with the revenue or the resources the NRL have, I think there's an opportunity for the game to be taken to other markets. Look, you've only got to talk about the NBA, the NFL, the EPL, and they're taking their sport wherever they can to grow it. And I think rugby league, on a smaller scale, can do the same thing.
And just on that point, Grant, in regards to entertainment and the global game, what are you thinking about in terms of game day experiences? You're thinking about other types of merchandise. How are you thinking about that? There's lots of pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, there is. And that we started with that in rebranding the club, and we changed the colours of the club and the whole branding to be very much UK Union Jack inspired. It's blue and red and white. We got Reebok on board early, who again, they had the Union Jack on their sneakers. Obviously, they're no longer a British-owned brand, but they were. And if you think about that kind of turnaround story, they used to be, pretty big time. And at one point, the London Broncos were. So we think it's a good partnership of getting that apparel to suit, a modern market in London. It doesn't necessarily need to be just for rugby league fans. And so we started with that. And then obviously game day experience is the next big selling point. So I keep saying in the UK that it's the only place you can have a beer in your seat, because you can't have one at the football or the soccer, as we call it. And then, creating that atmosphere game day. Actually, the big soccer clubs don't, other than singing, they're great at chants and singing their songs. They don't have fireworks. They don't have musicians and DJs and all those kind of things. It's just rusted on fans. So we got a chance to try and build a game day experience that appeals to young people in London, not necessarily rugby league fans. And we have been putting a focus on that so far. And as we keep growing as a club, we'll keep doing that and hopefully create new fans of rugby league, because it is a great product, and that is what V'landys is doing, taking it to different places. Once people see it, they're like, oh, this is great. It's super entertaining. It's high. There's the collision, obviously, that you don't see in other sports. So, yeah, we can do our bit. We've got London as our backyard, and it is a big city and a crucial part of the world game, really.
And Darren, you've got kids and you've go to sporting events, etc. Do you take little bits and bobs? You're thinking a bit more now strategic around what's that works, that's engaging, that's not, and seeing maybe some other types of things that you can maybe introduce over time?
Yeah, we got to find, it's like business, right? You got to find a point of difference. I think the really important part, I use the Melbourne analogy a bit, when Melbourne first started down, in AFL Heartland, one of the key reasons why they are where they are is because they've been winning on the field, right? So they've got to, performance on the field's got to be a priority for us, because that does bring bum on seats. But then what are the non-rusted on sort of rugby league people? Why are they coming? Well, they're coming to enjoy, the atmosphere. They're coming to enjoy, the fact that you can have a beer or a glass of wine in your seat. getting the music involved. So we're trying to make it a day out. At the same time, we need to win on the field.
And touching on that, the winning on the field, it's broad now. I mean, looking at the teams that mentioned, the Melbourne Storm and Penrith and the Lions, etc. It doesn't just come from the players. How are you thinking about that from a CEO, a coach, a leader, and the composition of a team, yourself being in high-performing teams?
Culture. It's about setting standards and not compromising on them. So the coach is he's the one that drives the culture with the football department. He obviously has his people around him that assist him, and then the CEO or the leadership group in the commercial department, they got their standards that they got their KPIs, but I'm a big believer in no shortcuts. And if you have a focus on that and no one takes shortcuts and you work hard, then you'll get what you deserve. And so if you've got the right people, there's no reason why you can't succeed.
The similarities between playing rugby league and business, and Darren Lockyer, the rugby league player, Darren Lockyer, the business person. You want to talk about that for a second, the identity shift, as well as maybe any similarities in mindset?
Yeah, well, I think, you're playing in a team sport, you're also, if you're in a business, it's a team sport as well. You have a role to play. So if you execute your role and do that well, and everyone around you, if you can help others around you do the same thing, then that gives you the best chance of being successful. I'm a big believer in focus on the process, not the outcome. Now that's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you do, I always say to myself, if I do every day well, and that means if I've got to do A, B, and C for various different sort of groups in a day, then I described it the other day to Robert Craddock from Courier Mail. Basically, when I played for Broncos, I was there focused on what I did for the Broncos, and then when I played for Queensland, I'd take my Broncos hat off and put my Queensland cap on and watch me roll here and go and do that, and then take that off and put the Australian cap on. So you just got to get your cup, compartmentalise where you are and what you need to do, and do that well. And I always say that to my kids every day when I drop off to school, do today well.
And I've noticed in a couple of interviews you say you miss that competitiveness, a little bit of sport. When it comes to business, is that fire you up a little bit now?
Oh, look, I think this is the thing when you're now a part owner of a football team. There's a little bit of extra in all the little wins that you get, right? So the other day when we got beaten by Bradford, and we didn't have a lot of luck, but we got beaten, and that was a game that we thought we were a chance of winning. So that was very disappointing to lose that. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, for me, whatever I'm invested in, personally, and whether it's financially or personally, I just want I want to give it the best chance to succeed. And what's my role in doing that?
Yep. And Grant, the competitive streak in you, when you put money into something and you think, okay, this is a game, I want to win. How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I actually, for me personally, business kind of replaced sport at a very young age for me as that outlet of let's go and win something together, let's go and achieve something together. So I played rugby league as a junior, and it's always been my favourite sport, and I kind of retired at 19, but I bought into my first business at 22, and ever since I've been, I guess, addicted to to that life. It's an opportunity to go and achieve something with people that are like-minded, and that I'd never found that anywhere else other than in sport. And certainly doing it as a rugby league club is probably the next level of that, because you get that kind of opportunity to win games, and like Darren said, it's got that extra kind of importance because you're the owners of the club. But yeah, I mean, I love it, and it's something I see myself doing until I can't leave the house.
When you invest in something, broadly speaking, whether it's a listed company or unlisted, you get reporting. Maybe it's quarterly or half yearly, etc., and you get to meet the board members, etc. But now with football, you get feedback weekly, which is the result, and yep. you feel a bit more heart in the sleeve. Is the mindset different with feedback now from the club, going, okay, you've lost a game, disappointing, but okay, next week's different, versus business, maybe it's a bit longer term thinking?
That's a good point. And often in business too, it's a longer burn. You might be trying to put together a project or a new deal, and that one event might take 6 months or 12 months or whatever it is. Whereas,
That's the season.
Yeah, whereas
Right.
you do get this weekly opportunity to get feedback, and we're very active in that space. Like we've got too many WhatsApp groups and feedback every week, whether it's formal or informal. But yeah, that is a big difference.
Yeah, coming back to your point earlier, the thing about it as a player, you got that every week, right? The highs and lows. The winning is an addictive feeling, and so when you step out of that arena and become a retired player, or you go into business, the highs and lows are there, but they're just not as as frequent, right?
Yep.
So, but then as a board member of the Brisbane Broncos, you still get a bit of that, because we're playing every week. But the moment you become invested in a club financially and personally, it's there's just a little bit extra riding on it.
I'm curious on the trust in the process through your career, whether you trusted your own process or you changed your process a little bit through your own mindset. The trust the process, is that a thing that Darren Lockyer sort of resonated with, I suppose, through your career?
That focus on the process and not the outcome?
Yes.
Yeah, because a sports psychologist, Phil Jauncey, he works with the Olympic teams.
Aussie.
Yeah, he does the profile.
Yeah.
You're either
What were you? Do you remember what you
I was. I wasn't a Mozzie. I had a little bit of Mozzie, but that's your Alan Langer. He's a Mozzie. Then there's your feeler,
Yep.
thinker, and I can't think of the other one, but I think I was more of a feeler feeler.
So the one that I was, which is probably similar, is you do something, you feel a bit extroverty, it's a bit maybe a slightly mozzie, but then you kind of ask someone was it okay, as opposed to the person doesn't care.
Doesn't care, yeah.
Whereas I kind of go, was it all right? Yeah. Okay, that's the little bit in me. I don't know. Do you get reassurance and feedback a bit, or you like you don't care anymore?
Yeah, I think. I guess that's why I focus on the process, because if I know if I've really put energy into what the process is, and then I'll give myself the best chance of a good outcome. And so if you get a good outcome, well, then you obviously feel good about that because it's good. I wasn't always one that was looking for feedback. I knew myself whether I did good or whether I let someone down.
And then from trusting the process when it comes to now an investment, let's say season 1 doesn't go very well, or halfway through season 2 doesn't go, are you making changes, or are you going, no, we've got a good coach, we've got a good culture, things are going okay, let things be?
Well, you're constantly thinking about it, right? So from our perspective, we just started talking the other day about if we're in Super League, that's the target, we're going to have to start thinking about buying some more players. Yeah, so we're always thinking about long term, but the short term focus is obviously, a little bit different at the minute.
Yeah, and it's a unique thing, right? We've got the chance to win 3 different trophies this year in the championship. There's a league leader, so you finish first, you get a league leaders trophy. There's the grand final of the championship, and then there's another competition called the 1895 Cup, which is a bit like the FA Cup. It's a knockout round. So very much JD's focus this year and ours is let's win all 3, right? And let's prove that we're ready to go up to Super League. But Darren's right. It's then in the back of your mind already. Well, we know we're going to go up at some point. Hopefully it's next year. When we do, we don't just want to be in the Super League. We want to be competitive from day one, and we know we've got a coach who wants to be as well. So we've got to give him all the support we can. So we're definitely committed to JD and the process, and we just got to do our part when the time comes to get the right people on the bus. And I think being London, we had a lot of interest from NRL players from the get-go, and I think the longer that they've seen that happen, and we've had Brisbane visit, we trained with the Kangaroos last year, the profile of London is increasing, but obviously you're not going to get those really top NRL guys to come across unless we are in the Super League. So definitely a work in progress, but no plans on changing anything anytime soon. We'll stick with the plan.
For those sports fans out there that don't really know how it works in terms of promotion relegation, which is very, very strong in obviously the Premier League in football, your views on that, and Australians don't really have it, broadly speaking.
Yeah, so here it's a franchise, right? It's a closed system in the NRL or the AFL, and if they decide to expand, they're in control.
Expand outwards, yeah.
That process. So yeah, I think the most familiar example would be English soccer or football, is the promotion relegation. The bottom teams go down and the top teams go up to the Premier League from the league below. Ours is similar but more complicated. So the RFL partnered with IMG, a big sports group, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And it's a system that includes winning on the field, but it also includes financial measures. It includes fandom, so social media and engagement, fans in the stadium, all sorts of different metrics to make up a score. And you're actually promoted and relegated based on the score. Not so you could win the championship and not have the score, and you wouldn't go up to the Super League, and you could come last in the Super League theoretically and have a higher score because you packed your stadium and your financials are good. Now, that's probably unlikely. You know, the bottom teams aren't the strongest in the Super League financially either, but it was brought in to basically try and get all the clubs in the Super League to be performing to a higher standard and raise the financial side of the game, which I think is good. It's just, there's been a number of changes, and we've got to be now crystal clear on how we get our score to be in the top 14. There's talk of it being 16 as well, so there's a few variables from our side, but all we can do is make sure we win and then drive all those off-field metrics to give ourselves the best chance.
And how many go up? Or is there a final, or how does it work in terms of promotion?
No, so 2 went up last year as part of an expansion, so they went from 12 to 14.
Right.
No one actually knows how many could go up this year. Like if you had, for instance, 2 championship clubs who both improved so far off the field that their scores went up, and then they passed 2 of the Super League clubs, theoretically 2 could go down, but that's never happened. So, I think there's been a lot of spotlight on us because we obviously tried to go up through the expansion process, and we'd only been involved for a month, so it was all future stated rather than the other 2 clubs who had a higher grading score and some runs on the board. So, most of the talk now is about us and how we can get up next year, but we can only control what we can control, and as long as the RFL give us clear guidelines on how we get up, then the rest is up to us.
I think the IMG and the RFL are doing their best to try and stabilise the competition, both in the Super League and the Championship, because there is the problem is, and it's happened to London the last 3 to 4 years, they go up into Super League, they can't compete because they don't have the players, and then they get dropped back. And so it's a very bumpy road for fans and to stabilise a club. So I can understand where IMG's trying to get to is to get these clubs performing on the field but better off the field. So at this point in time, it's still not 100% sure about what the process they're going to use. There's talk of going to 16 teams and making them franchises, talk about relegation and promotion. But at this stage, as Grant said, we can just control what we can control, and that's win on the field and do everything we can to grow the revenue off the field.
And off the field, I'm going to touch on Darren. The ownership brought Darren Lockyer official Instagram page was live. I'm curious around that and how you go, mate.
It's a learning curve, put it that way. It's a learning curve. It's never been my cup of tea, but it's the modern world, isn't it? And our focus has been getting eyeballs on the club because, as we know, the more eyeballs that are on you, and social media is a big part of that, the more you can grow your revenue stream. So I've had to learn. I'm still learning. I get a lot of digs from my mates going, that's not you, but it's slowly transforming into me because I got 3 sons that are on it, and they're all giving me tips on how to use it. And I've got a wife who's pretty social, so she knows how to use it. So I'm learning quickly.
Forced.
Do you know the difference between a story, a reel, and a post? Do you get
I'm getting and learning that now. You got to swipe to the right and do a post or a story or a reel. But then I've got to add music in, and so.
What's your choice of music?
It's just whatever's.
Sweet Caroline.
Do your kids?
Yeah.
Do your kids go, come on, Dad? You know who this rapper is?
That's the rap music. I still haven't got my head around all that stuff. But I guess you just try and find a tune that's relevant to what you're posting.
Well, at least we've got a social media team now in London. Like the early days, we were sitting in the back of black cabs, and he's like giving me his phone. How do I do this? And we'd like pressing buttons together. So we're thankfully we've got Regan and Christy on board now.
Some help. Yeah, I'm going to touch on that for a second because some of the clubs have actually gone really well with their socials. Look, GWS here in the AFL and the Jacob, I think his name's got poached by Tasmania for the AFL.
All right.
And the following becomes a bit of a metric in terms of how many followers on Instagram and TikTok and etc. Did you look at that when you were looking at the club from a due diligence point of view?
Yeah, well, because that's part of the IMG grading, so it was a huge focus for us. Was the club's socials and media in general was there, but it was pretty much super basic. Posting the results of the game and halftime scores and whatnot. So we knew that we had to engage with that audience. We've actually had a unique following come from PNG. Like we have 6 or 7 PNG players in the squad, and rugby league is almost their religion up there. And so things like our Facebook page is kind of doubled, nearly tripled in followers, and a lot of that has been driven from PNG. Whereas the Instagram content, we've focused on that engaging kind of content that fans are going to want to see, and that's naturally increased more in the UK and Australia. And we're probably in a unique position too that we have a lot of Australian fans because of Darren's involvement as well. So yeah, definitely something that we've focused on from the get-go, and it's probably one of the first things we did was let's revamp this in line with our branding that we did, and there's still a lot of focus on it now.
Yeah, and sorry, you go.
Oh, I just look at my kids. It's just that's how they consume their content, right? It's the next generation. Like even myself, dropping the kids off to cricket this morning in school, I was watching that rugby league game on my phone because I had to. But that's how kids.
Not when we were growing up. You get the wide world of sports on a Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. going, oh, there's a 3-minute footage of a rugby league game overseas, right? That was it.
Yeah, so it's just
democratisation of sport. Just on that, like you've got the league, their socials and their thing. You've got the broadcast partner that's filtering it in and doing their socials. You've got the team, and then you've got the players.
Yes.
How are you thinking about all this?
Yeah, well, we've done a lot of work with both with the game, the RFL, and with the media in the UK to get some eyeballs on London, and especially because of the time we did it, I think was outside the Super League season. The championship started before the Super League, and then obviously Darren's involvement as well. We did actually get a lot of coverage from mainstream press, so from Sky and BBC and all sorts of engagement, and then they've shared that on their socials. And then by the time the Challenge Cup came around, which was the game we lost to Bradford that Darren was talking about, the RFL were actually really proactively asking us to work with them to help promote the game in London. So we need all of that. We need the game, the broadcasters, ourselves, and then our players more and more are doing their own socials. And, we've got a few high-profile ex-NRL players, which obviously helps for content back over here. We got some of them who have a real crack at it, like Dean Hawkins, our halfback. He's like day in the life of a footy player, and
from that coffee shop to the yoga sessions, all that sort of stuff.
Mate,
A bit like Darren here, all the time, mate.
Even his journaling, I think.
You bring in some external guys too, like Big John.
Yeah, we had Big John, the Bosch man. He did some work with the Roosters out here last year. He did some work with the RFL, so we had him at our first game, which was fascinating. Like we had James Haskell, who's an ex-England Rugby Union player, as the DJ. He's a DJ now. I think got 500,000 followers himself, and then him and Big John knew each other, and we had Ange Postecoglou at the first game, which, speaking of social, I think that maybe had 1 million views or something. The fact that he was at our game, which is far and above any kind of reach we normally have, and probably a final point on that is we know that we're not the number one ticket in town in London like football is. So the more we can get footballers and other sports, tennis, and when Wimbledon's on and all that kind of cross content and Aussies, famous Aussies in London, all those things will help attract more attention to us. So it's definitely important that we do it at all levels.
Yeah, I'm curious, Darren, do you think about this investment as you're in the sporting game, you're in the rugby league game, or you're in the entertainment business?
Entertainment business, yeah, right. So, and I think that's the same for all sports. You're looking for, you look at the Big Bash, right? That's completely what that, T20 changed cricket, but now, the Big Bash has, become all about entertaining, and they're doing that well. But rugby league's in the same. It's got a great product, the game itself, but they've got to find ways to keep entertaining people so that the younger generation coming through that aren't rusted onto the game, they're actually getting an experience where they go, oh, I enjoyed that. A great example in terms of atmosphere, which adds to the entertainment, was the Brisbane Broncos playing Penrith here late last year. the atmosphere there, I've never experienced anything like it. And, you know, our membership base is more like season ticket members is more than doubled. And I reckon a big part of that was just because people were addicted to that atmosphere they experience.
That one particular game with that Nick Davis, I had a copy with him the other day, the over the loudspeaker, just the actual game, you reckon it was up there for you?
Oh, it was incredible. Like, it was bigger than an Origin. Maybe it was a daytime, but the noise was incredible. And everyone talks about it ever since. And I just think we want to create an atmosphere at our games. Obviously, that's, you know, getting the singing going, getting the chanting going, that's a big part of it. But you got to have, like, while we're building towards, you know, selling out our stadium, we've still got to have other parts to the experience that people go, oh, that was a fun day. I didn't watch a lot of footy, but I had a good day.
Have you looked at banana ball in the US, the Savannah Bananas? Have you?
No, I haven't.
It's a baseball, like they're making baseball fun, and
right.
they're packing out stadiums in the US because they're doing things a little bit differently to the normal baseball, like 9 innings come to 6 innings.
Right.
There's dancing, there's people on stilts, there's Australians in there and fireman outfits. It's like entertainment, fans first. You should check it out. Jesse Cole, he wears a yellow tux, and he's like, find your yellow tux. Been listening to the podcast. And it's Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium, just selling out completely. Fans first, entertainment first.
Correct,
yeah.
Hong Kong
and
Sevens.
So my question on this point is, like, cricket's gone from Test cricket 5 days to 1 day to T20. I think I've even seen a T10 floating around somewhere, or 100 in the UK, which is popular. It's shrinking. Rugby league is 90 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever it is, 80 minutes, I think it is. Rugby union's 90. Anyway.
We're 80, yeah.
You're 80, yep. Rugby. And the product went down to like 9s for a bit and 7s, still floating around. But that core product, you're happy with that, you think, in terms of the time, the length, etc.?
Oh, look, I still think a lot of people enjoy the 80 minutes. It's not, you know, the game itself asks the fans, what do you want to watch? And they basically say, we want to see the collision early, you know, and then we want the fatigue to set in. We want to see people play ad-lib football, not structured footy, right? So the game starts to tailor the rules to give the fans what they want. So I still think 80 minutes in rugby league works, because 80 minutes compared to a few other sports is not a long time.
Yeah, it's similar to the big, well, probably smaller than the Big Bash, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
And it's similar to rugby union. It's shorter than football, soccer.
Yeah.
So I don't think the time, and because it's such a fast, high contact sport, as you were saying, there's that. I think it's actually getting people to understand how good the game is to watch live. The harder challenge is actually filling the stadium, and how do you get attention on the game first. At the first game, we had a heap of rugby union people there. We had some football people there, obviously, and the comment from all of them was, oh, wow, that's entertaining. Like, it's great to watch. Why didn't I know about this? So I think that's a combination of the London Broncos just surviving for a long period of time, but also rugby league in general being a northern game in the UK, and the game not, you know, having the funds potentially to invest in London and try and grow that awareness. So we're going to try and do our bit. We need the game, obviously, to try and help us do that as well. But I don't think we have any problem with retention because of the length of the game.
At the time, yeah. Okay.
And those type of things. I think it's more taking those other things, like you said, with the Big Bash. Like, I was back here at the Big Bash with my 2 sons in January, and then I flew back over for our first game, and I was in the first row at the Big Bash, and the Flames were coming up, and we were at our first game, and I booked Flames and powder fireworks, and I was saying to him every time, that cost this, that flame cost that. Because
we're doing cost per fight.
Yeah, because it's not cheap, especially in pounds. But, you know, it did, on the first game highlights, you can actually hear the crowd kind of wowing at it, because they've never had that at a London Broncos game ever. So we ran out to music, fireworks, flames, etc. So it's little things like that you can take from other sports and put into it.
I think the Big Bash is 15 years in now.
Yeah.
15, and it's kind of gone, you know, like the last few years, it's just kicked again.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's because of what they're doing outside of the game. Like, I think that the experience and the entertainment they're putting into it outside of the actual game on the field is why. They're making it fun for all different ages. So, you know, and a big part of it's the atmosphere. So you got to it's a chicken and egg, right? So we're trying to build to get our crowds, which is only holds 9,000, but the closer we get to selling that out, well, all those other things like the flames and whatever, they become part of it. But the big part of it is, oh, geez, I'm here, I'm singing, I'm watching, I get that feel of energy which is a big part of the experience.
And getting people bums on seats requires membership. I'm curious to know what you're thinking around membership, and obviously being back here in Brizzy as well, the opportunity for people to keep an eye on the London Broncos, follow on Instagram and be a part of it.
Yeah, well, so membership, as in ticketed membership, there's going to be a work in progress, right? We have to build. We've got a small rusted on fan base, so we got some great fans. We got Big Al with his drum, and he walks up and down the sideline. He's actually become famous in Papua New Guinea. But to build a new fan base outside of them takes time to get them in. You know, I know Brisbane and other sports have done it over the years. You can do 4-game memberships and things just to start to get people involved, and then hope they buy the season membership next year. So from a ticketed point of view, we're doing that. In terms of getting fans back here, we have launched an Aussie supporters membership, which is basically obviously non-ticketed living in Australia, but you get our signature cap and access to early information and promotions and things from the club, and a welcome note from Darren, and just the support from Australia has been great so far. So we specifically launched that recently to try and build on that.
And then people going over to London for a holiday, and you want them to pop in and watch the game, right? So how are you thinking about that?
100%, yeah. Well, we're trying to promote to all the people we know in Australia, obviously, that when you can come over and catch a game, and some of those people are ex-players and things as well, and then you see that back in Australia here, that they've been to the games, and just create that awareness that, if you're going on a holiday to the UK, which obviously a lot of Australians do, you can call in and watch some rugby league while you're there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in terms of the Brisbane connection, Darren being on the board, are you thinking about siblings, brother, sister collaborations in your head around that in the future, like cross fan base, cross promotions on Instagram, etc.?
Yeah, I think that you can't force that though. I think it needs to happen organically. I think there's a good chance over time that the connection will become stronger. So Dave Donny, the CEO, he's been very supportive of, for example, the Brisbane trained against London the other day in London. So it obviously helped Brisbane out with their preparation. But you talk about eyeballs on London, Brisbane's, probably one of the biggest, it's probably the biggest rugby league brand in the world. So for them to go and train with London was obviously an advantage for us in terms of drawing attention to London. So I think little things like that over time, whether it's the fans or the members here that get, a discounted ticket over there. I think that'll happen organically.
And then when you're thinking about investment, and it's right in your wheelhouse, rugby league, it's Broncos, there's a lot of things that tick the box.
Yeah.
Other investments that you're thinking about in your life? This probably aligns very, very closely, but when you think about an investment, what are you thinking about yourself now? And in terms of the due diligence process?
In this particular, in London? Or
no,
just in
broadly speaking.
Well, look, again, we talk about, this is an opportunity, but, I'll talk about London first, but there's also risk involved. But I look at the game here in Australia. The governing body gives all the money to the clubs to pay their players, and they give them an extra, I think it's nearly $5 million now to run their business, right? It's a huge head start. So the game in England is nowhere near that. So we feel that if the game can continue to grow over there and get stronger, then the more revenue will come, then that'll underpin our investment. And if we can actually get a similar setup to what's happening in Australia, well, then we can reinvest that extra money back into the game, back into our pathways. And that's where I see the upside with this investment. And I've always said that a strong London rugby league team is only a good thing for the game. So that's sort of where our head's at with London. And I think it's similar to any other investment, right? Risk versus reward. But once you put your foot in there and you go, we're going to do this, well, we're here to make it work.
Yeah, and then the Broncos make the Super League. They win the Super League. The Broncos win the NRL. They play each other. Who are you going for?
Well, that's I couldn't answer that question right now because I mean,
maybe I should answer instead. We probably get the prize money at London, so
the commercial hat comes on.
Because I think that's a long way off. All right.
Well answered, Darren.
Yeah. Because I think London it is going to take time to build. The revenue stream there in terms of performance on the field. That's going to take resources. I think we've got a really strong team there for the championship, but we probably, no disrespect to who's playing there now, but we probably have to add 2 or 3, pretty high-profile players, just to really, to your point, try and win the Super League.
And Grant, we've got a sponsor in Scoreboard, which is great, SwiftX. They're Australia's most trusted cryptocurrency platform with over 1.5 million Australian and New Zealand users. As part of that partnership, they have a little segment in this podcast called The Bucket List. And we're talking about entertainment. We're talking about getting people fans to the game. I'm curious, what's your sporting bucket list event that you haven't attended live and why?
As a kid, I wanted to go to the US Masters. That was until Greg Norman lost that year in '96. That put me off for a while. But I'd say I'd still love to go to the US Masters. It's just got that, even through the television coverage, it just seems to have that aura about it. And, very few people get to go. So I'd still love to do that one day. I'd love to go to Wimbledon as well. Probably more chance of that in the short term in London. But yeah, I'd say the US Masters.
The Wimbledon thing, do the calendars collide with the rugby league? Like, is there some sort of Aussie sporting tour package that you could do?
Well, we're trying to organise that for next year. This year's a little difficult. We do play through the summer, so and Darren actually linked up with Pat Cash at the first Ashes test when we were over there. He lives in London, and
imagine that, an Ashes test, Wimbledon, and a Broncos game, huh?
Yeah,
Combined every few years, yeah.
So there's definitely opportunity to do something in the future. I think you had the idea that everyone dresses up in white, and we have a round that coincides with Wimbledon. But unfortunately, the soccer stadiums, which we play at, all rip up their pitch at the same time. So we've got to work out venues and things, but definitely on the agenda for 2027.
That's that sort of point of thinking outside the square a bit. We might. There's so many Aussies there. With a Wimbledon day might be, everyone comes dressed in their best tennis kit for a game.
Did you have the strawberries and cream when you were there?
I've not been to.
Oh, you've not been to Wimbledon.
So that's on my bucket list.
Oh, your
too.
bucket list. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. Your bucket list. Wimbledon.
Well, Wimbledon's on there, and obviously the Masters would be. But mine would be Super Bowl. I tend to take the family for a bit of a ski in Canada. Every now and then, and we get caught in America for a bit, and don't stay there too long because of the exchange rate. But
always thinking that.
But we just went recently to the Rose Bowl, which is the college football, which was a great experience. But I've always wanted to go to a Super Bowl. I just think it's probably the biggest ticket on the planet.
Yeah, and what does the college system do, right? You think in terms of fan engagement that you could learn from?
Well, I mean, they just pack their stadiums out. There's the things the songs they sing pre-game and post-game, and they pack them in. I mean, some of those stadiums hold 110,000, and they're very jovial, very parochial. But the thing I've always loved about that game is the Virginia Tech Enter the Sandman when they come in. Have you ever seen?
Yeah, where the players just beforehand. There's 2 or 3 minutes of that intro, and the players in the change rooms, and then they, as I said, they touch the stuff.
The Hokies. The Hokies.
Did you ever touch anything as you ran out?
No, we never had something like that. But the Americans do that so well, and to have 110,000 people jumping up and down on their seats before the team runs out, that's pretty incredible.
And Grant, we've also got another sponsor in PocketSmith. PocketSmith is the personal CFO for the household budget, the one being able to track your spending, see your net worth, and plan ahead. And as part of their sponsorship with Scoreboard, we run a little segment with money and sport. This is a business type podcast as well. Personally, do you budget? Are you a budgeter?
I'm not. I'm terrible, actually. I'm good at it at the office because I've got the CFO and we've got a great plan. But at home, I must admit, I'm not a good budgeter.
When it comes to the London Broncos, though, the balance sheet, you'll be looking at that pretty finely.
Yes, definitely.
From a business point of view, yes.
From a business point of view, I'm all over it. But at home, I might need to start using it.
Yep, PocketSmith. There you go, Darren. What about yourself?
I'm not a budgeter either. I'm a focus on the process, not the outcome. So, like I said, it probably every day well, and you'll get what you deserve. Is sort of my mentality. And look, sometimes all the financial advisors say you got a budget, but unfortunately, I don't either.
Just try and make more.
Yeah. And then when it comes to looking at a bottle of wine, what do you look for? Do you look for a good cover, or do you look for
the region?
The region.
Interesting.
Well, I'm going to come to you in a second.
Yeah. So, I probably drink more wine than I do beer these days, and there's particular varieties that work better in particular regions. So we we're impartial to a rosé, so we're off to France to Provence for a rosé. Then Pinot Noir or Burgundy. Burgundy, obviously in France, is for a light red.
That's my favourite.
And then if you want to go to heavy reds or Bordeaux, but then you go to South Australia and you go in the Barossa. And then if you want a Pinot, you go down to your Central Otago, Victoria or Tassie. So you just the variety you like, then I go for the region next.
So what's your favourite varietal? Or does it just depend on the weather and the food?
I'm probably a rosé into a Pinot because it's a bit easier on the brain fog the next day. But if you've got a nice dinner party coming on and you want to share a nice bottle, well, I'd probably go to a Bordeaux or something from the Barossa.
And to get our podcast viral, we need to tag in the particular winemaker that you love. Is there a particular wine out there that you love?
I don't know.
For the rosé, would be the Whispering Angel.
The Whispering Angel.
That's been good, yeah.
Well, hopefully they've got millions of Instagram followers. We tag them in and we get millions of followers on the back of this. What about you, Grant?
Oh, look, Burgundy's my favourite wine region. I've been there. My wife and I went there and toured around, and we drink a fair bit of it at home, but also we're both partial to it as well. It's it's a bit more complex than the Pinot Noirs you get in Tassie or New Zealand, or definitely the Victoria. I find the Victorian stuff a bit light. So I've become quite the Burgundy
expert, snob.
Not expert, but I'm devoted to finding good bottles, which unfortunately when you're in the UK, they're in pounds. It doesn't always work out that well on the restaurant menu.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, like the food experience and the dining and the corporate experience at the London Broncos. Is that something you're looking to just go, right, let's get the future of hospitality and start from...
Yeah, it actually is. It's something, you've got a real focus on it. And unfortunately, because we don't own the stadium, we don't have the full rights to that yet, but we have actually partnered up with an Australian beef provider, and we're bringing in like this high quality Australian beef into the corporate dining. And next is wine. We're working with a few different wine companies on how we're going to introduce premium wine to the experience there as well. In summer, we plan to have Aperol Spritz tents out in the general admission and all those kind of things to go with those trends. So yeah, definitely something that is part of that game day experience that we need to get right. We can only do so much this year, but hopefully moving forward we can do a hell of a lot more.
But London is, in terms of options for fine dining, it's incredible. It's an amazing place. It's obviously expensive, but I think maybe because of the climate, they're indoors a lot, maybe except for summer. That's why they're always out in Hyde Park with their shirts off, copping as much sun as they can.
Yeah, and at lunchtime, you're like, wow, what's going on? No, it's just lunchtime.
There's a pub on every corner, but even the pub food's great over there.
Yeah, no. When it comes to sport and sporting moments, I always ask my guests their favourite all-time sporting moment. I'm going to start with you, Grant. Something you can watch on YouTube 5,000 to 10,000 times.
Okay, I watched this on videotape many times when I was at university, so it's a bit of a left field one, but Kieran Perkins winning the 1500 in 1996 in Atlanta, just the way that he was against the odds and he got out of the pool and just celebrated. It was just, I thought, I love backs against the wall stories and people never giving up, and I just remember I was only 16, so I remember watching that on repeat on the VCR. So
on the VCR. It brings back memories of the VCR on the VHS and all those tapes. Darren, your favourite all-time?
That was the one that Grant just said. That's not the one I'm going to use, but that was a great moment. I do remember that was lane 8, and everyone wrote him off. And so that's, I love those sort of stories.
And Dennis Cometti's commentary was just phenomenal.
For me, probably this a bit more relative, given my history with the club. But I think I remember, watching the 92 grand final and Brisbane won their first premiership, and Steve Renouf ran away for that length of the field try. That was sort of probably the moment I reckon that I've always remembered as a kid growing up and thought, well, that's what I want to do when I get, I was there playing for them only a few years later, but that was sort of the moment where I want to do something like that.
So every now and then you jump on YouTube and type it in?
Yeah, well, I always say that was probably the most famous Brisbane Broncos try ever, because it was the moment we knew the Broncos had won their first grand final. And I wouldn't say I watch it on replay, because you see it enough times, on the highlights that are shown throughout the game, because it's it's a big part of the history of the Broncos.
Yep. I've got two final questions. One is I'm going to go to you, Grant, the scoreboard moment, and the name of this podcast is called Scoreboard, and that is a moment in your life that's so visual, vivid, you can recall it instantly, and from that moment, life changed into a different direction.
Okay, I've probably got two. The first one was actually I did my ACL for a third time and stopped playing rugby league when I was 19. And I call it the lost decade for a bit after that, because I lost my way a bit, and now I ended up in business and now obviously part owner rugby league club. But at the time it was that, I desperately wanted to be a rugby league player, the same as Darren was talking about then in 92. And so that was a real pivot of like, what am I going to do now? And going through that kind of what I talked about before with Kieran Perkins, like going through that, getting off the floor. And, my comeback wasn't in sport, but it was in business. And, probably the second part of that would be meeting my wife, because that was at the start of really building a business career after that, and giving me, I've got a unique mind when it comes to business, but not as good at everything else. So, rounding out that, giving your life some purpose and starting a family, and then, business really kicked off from there. So I guess those two are connected, but they'd be my two.
Yeah, brilliant. Darren?
Well, my sort of first, I reckon, moment that changed my life was when Cyril Connell came and spoke to me and showed some interest in me, because I think from a very young age, he used to watch State of Origin, and obviously watched Wally Lewis, used to replay Origins. And so you'd be in the backyard playing against your brothers, just dreaming about playing for the Broncos or Queensland. And then, so I was 14 at the time. We were at a schoolboy carnival up in Caboolture, and Cyril was a pretty well-known person because he was the Broncos scout. So a lot of players knew of him, what he looked like. And so, you go there and you play footy and you just hope that he's going to notice you. And so the moment he actually came to me and, started to show interest in me, that sort of changed the trajectory of my life a bit, because I started to believe that I could actually achieve my dreams. I was only 14, but it sort of, he showed the belief in me, which then thought, oh, maybe this is a real option. And then to go into that, I mean, obviously there's my family that played all of their part, and they still do today. But obviously going into the Broncos system and having Wayne Bennett as a mentor for a very long time, I think his focus was always, I want to improve the person so they improve as a footballer. And I think that's really defined my life as well.
Can I just touch on Wayne for a second? Did you ever have any battles, like in terms of your mindset, like I'm doing it this way, you're doing it that way? Or was there a fair bit of like respect from both parties to say, we're going in this direction?
Oh, no, I think I always challenge, not so much in person, Wayne about his ways, but Wayne would have a certain way that he wanted to do things, and but he was also very accommodating for others to be themselves too, right? So if I didn't always believe in what I guess Wayne was trying to create or achieve, like I'd do what I had to do because that was my role. But if I was going to step outside the parameters a little bit, I was always willing to do that. But, and that's probably Wayne's greatest strength, right? He has the way he wants the football team to play, but he's also, over the years, allowed people like Alan Langer and Kevin Walters and just to be themselves. And so he's very good at that. So I never felt like if I went outside of the parameters of what he wanted the team to do and how they wanted to play, if I went outside that, I didn't feel like I was going to be, going to get the cuts on Monday.
And Grant, what about the relationship between you and Darren? Who's the funny one? Who's the smart one? Who's the creative one?
We both get funnier after the wines that we talked about earlier.
The burgundies and the
significantly
rosé.
funnier, yeah. Like
so the podcast is next, is it? After a couple of burgundies?
Yeah, we could do a whole separate episode on that. But yeah, I think we've worked together for such a long time now. I'm very much focused on the building the business part and how do we make it all fit together. And we've learnt each other's strengths over the years, and we've been, business partners in several businesses that have, grown to be very large businesses, and we've had our ups and downs and in that process. So I think it's a bit like you were talking about earlier. We know each other's role. And then in most of our businesses, we have other business partners as well who are particularly experts at a certain thing, because, you know, I think probably our skill set is quite generalist. Certainly mine, I can take it to different industries, and it's all about building relationships and trying to close deals and make that side of it happen, more so than the day-to-day management. I'm not particularly good at the day-to-day management of the businesses. So that's my side. I think on your side.
Well, I think I'm a deep thinker, so I'm always thinking about, okay, so even when you go to bed at night, you go, right, what's outstanding at the moment? Like, what do we need to do? Like, you know, because London's at the moment is obviously trying to rebuild, so there's a lot to do, and there's just always little bits and pieces that we got to be thinking about. So we often catch up, whether it's on the phone or we meet in person. And sometimes we can sit down and have a burgundy or a rosé and sit there for an hour and a half and get through a mountain of phone calls and a mountain of things, because we just sort of download it all, don't we? And we just work through it. So we're just constantly going, how do we improve everything we're doing around us?
When you say you're a deep thinker, where do you get how do you get your best thoughts?
Probably when I'm just sitting on my own, not distracted, and I'm just sitting there thinking about, because we don't just have London Broncos as our only investment. There's other things we've got that occupies our mind, and so there's just little prompts that happen along the way and in your day, and then when you sit down in the evening or in the morning after I've finished my exercise, I'll just have half an hour, sit there, have a coffee, and just go, right, what are all the things we've got to do today that's going to improve everything that's around us.
And you've got your phones and things as well, and kids sort of look at that as well. I'm curious to know are you a scroller? Do you like put it away, or do you like some habits around your phone?
Oh, look, I mentioned WhatsApp before. Like we're both avid WhatsAppers. It's a great way to just get answers out of people quickly from a business side of things. I have a group for everything. We have our mining businesses. We have groups for that. We've got probably too many London Broncos groups, one with the coach, one with the commercials, the CEO, all different parts of the business. So I love using that as a way of communicating rather than...
Globally as well.
Rather than email. It's direct and straight to the point. In terms of, scrolling, obviously with the club now, I'm always checking their accounts and updates and trying to get other people on board to follow the club. So that's changed a bit. It's not as obviously big in our other businesses, but as the night dies down, I'm still on it because I'll think of things as well, and we'll WhatsApp, and especially with the time zone now too. So night times are a bit busier than they used to be with corresponding with the UK.
Yeah, well, that's why I never really did social media, because I didn't really have time. I mean, I'd sit there, and if I had spare time, I'd go through my emails or messages and go, right, what do I need to respond to this? So now you add socials into that now, it's sort of like,
What's the next social post, apart from a post about saying you're doing Scoreboard? Do you think about that, or do you just think, at the moment, this would be worthwhile of a post?
Yeah. Probably for me, you're a little bit different maybe. I'm not one to force it. It's just like, this is a moment in my life that I think people might find interesting, but I'm the sort of person that I don't think many people would find that interesting. But my wife goes, no, you should post that,
Yeah, I think it's different. You're a public figure. I'm a big LinkedIn person because I'm in business, so I do kind of think ahead about the next things we want to communicate on LinkedIn in our businesses here in Australia. But from a social point of view, otherwise I've been more active again since London. So yeah, I mean, it is pretty organic though. Like, we'll finish this and you'll put it out and we'll share this.
Will I? Oh, okay,
sure.
Yeah, better. Yeah, that's right.
So we'll always be trying to
self-promote
and bring eyeballs back.
Confident. I say confident and assertive, not loud and proud. Yeah.
Yep. The objective is bringing eyeballs to the game and the club. So there's different ways of doing that. This is one of them.
Okay, and final question is, what can someone do? The London Broncos, Darren Lockyer, Grant Wechsel involved. What's the thing they can do now to help you?
Well, the biggest thing they could do is sign up to our new Aussie supporter membership. I brought you a hat, actually.
You brought me a hat. Yep. I love caps.
These caps have
how good.
They've been our most popular item
camera right there, right? So
in the UK, right. And they've got the Aussie membership on the side.
Go right with the big schnozzer.
It looks great.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Bit of inspiration behind it originally was, like the Boston hats have just got the B on the front rather than actually London Broncos.
No, be the B in the front.
Yeah,
That's
it's been it's been our most popular item in the UK, so it's part of our Aussie membership. So you can get that on our website, and then if you are travelling to the UK, we'd love to have you at a game.
Well, that's another sort of thing to mention. We talk about, bringing people to the game if you're not a rugby league fan, but just coming for the experience. Well, it's a bit like the merch, right? Trying to create something that's actually cool to wear, even if you're not really a London Broncos fan.
And people go, what's that? Yeah, it's the London
That's cool.
Broncos. Yeah, it's a little bit unique as well.
Look a bit catchy, yeah.
So jump on the website, follow the Insta, follow the Darren Lockyer official,
Or certainly
Wechsel official.
all the club accounts. We mentioned the followers count towards our grading. So the more followers we've got, the better. And we got great feedback on the content so far. So hopefully there's some entertainment, and it's an opportunity even for. It doesn't matter if you support the Brisbane Broncos or the Roosters or the Storm, you can support the London Broncos as another team without any kind of rivalry to your main team.
Yeah, awesome. Grant Wechsel, Darren Lockyer, thank you so much for coming on Scoreboard and having a chat today about the new investment, the London Broncos. Go check it out. I really do appreciate your time. Very grateful for your time and looking forward to catching up and supporting where I can.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Enjoyed it.
This has been another episode of Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Go back and check out some of the other episodes you might have missed.